I'm not using the right word for military, there's a different word for that one, but there's 4,770 Word documents on military websites with the word classified in them. You know, so you can imagine, and then if we go through and then look at the strikeout or history or revision history of these documents, we could find the most common thing is, hey, how many lawyers actually draft documents? And they just start with some other document already existing and then change it around, right? Well, you would have all the history of the document being changed. Everything that was in there before. So, actually, we bring the PowerPoint back up. There's actually a little tool that a guy wrote like 5 years ago called Strike That Out, Sam. And it's a Linux tool that goes through and you give it a Word document and it just gives you the strikeouts. In other words, the revision history. And if you go to Google and put Strike That Out, Sam, you can still get to it, and it has all kinds of examples where he just made Microsoft look like idiots by running this against Microsoft Word docs that were in their press release sites, and then showing how there's a lot of leaks of data. So, all right. So that's what I was talking about here. Other things that Google or search engine ninjutsu, as we call it, that we can do. You know, Google Groups, that allows us to search through all of the news groups. And what do attackers look for? You know, just look for anybody who's submitted to a news group from @DOD or @NASA or @anywhere, right? So then you can look through there and you'll find most of them are technology news groups, right? Where we're talking about, you know, I'm having a problem with my Cisco router, help me troubleshoot this. Well, that in itself right there is, oh, they use Cisco routers. So Google Cache, and this is one story to specifically tell because I came to this event the first time like 5 years ago at the Nemacolins Resort and spoke out there. And one of the things that came out of that is I started talking a lot to some folks at NASA, and it ended up being a 6-week customized training at NASA in Alabama. And no more than 2 or 3 weeks after I left there, and they put people like secretaries through this training too. No more than 2 or 3 weeks after I left there, I had one of these secretaries call me and said, I think we said too much in an article, and can you go take a look at the article? And it was for a government security news magazine. You know, a big magazine, you guys. All right, so I said, well, let me see. So she sent me the URL for the article online. I read the page one. I said, this is not really saying all that much. She goes, well, all the really juicy stuff is in page 2. And I said, there's no link to page 2 here anymore. So I changed the URL to page 2, and it didn't come up. Then I went to Google Cache, gave me the URL, and Google cached it. So I have page 2. And it really did say too much. That's all I have to say. Way too much. There's way too many details in there about what technologies are used and how they're used, and even trust relationships between systems and between facilities and all that good stuff. So you have to be careful even just from leaking. Data leaks is where it begins. These are some more examples of Google dorks. At the end of the day, encryption is really the very first line of defense that we should be doing is using encryption, especially for a number of things, including data leaks. So if all else fails, encrypt. Okay, you should be doing that. Now let's talk about state-sponsored attacks, digital espionage. During 2007, became very common for countries to go hack each other. In fact, the most common of this is China. This became public news in 2007, but it is nothing new. It wasn't new in 2007. China has been hacking us for years before 2007 that I'm aware of. Now, concern about state-sponsored cybercrime climaxed at the end of 2007 with the discovery that MI5, the British Security Service, had written to 300 chief executives and security chiefs at UK companies warning them about an electronic espionage attack. So that created quite the buzz. And shortly thereafter, in August of 2008, we saw some issues take place between South Ossetia and the Russian and Georgian hackers started hacking each other's government's website. This is one example of that where I think this was South Ossetia's website was hacked, and they had pictures of Hitler in comparison to their president at the time. So this was more, to some degree, this is almost what the old hackers did, just defacing a website. But still, here we have state-sponsored attacks start taking place. In May of 2008, a senior Indian government official in New Delhi were said to have confirmed that Chinese hackers targeted the Ministry of External Affairs and the National Informatics Center, which, by the way, provides all of the network infrastructure for India, and that they were targeting that specifically to gain an asymmetrical advantage over their potential adversaries. That was the official word from China, without having an official person behind it. In 2008, Seoul accused its adversaries in North Korea of stealing documents from military officers through the use of spyware, and I love this, a female agent. Dun, dun, dun. Female agents work very well, by the way. The spyware attack basically took the form of a malicious email. Again, so it was one of these with an attachment designed to steal documents from these individuals' computers. I'm trying to click next. All right. So arrests. Some of the arrests. Now we're seeing a lot more arrests. In January 2008, 3 men were constructed an elaborate email scam, pled guilty in a New York court to stealing more than $1.2 million. The men were sent emails that claimed to come from a victim of terminal throat cancer who wanted to distribute $55 million to charity. One of the gangs, this is his name, I can't pronounce it, is then said to have telephone recipients disguising his voice to pretend that he was suffering from this disease. In February of 2008, an American teenager pled guilty to seizing control of hundreds of thousands of zombie computers, which is better known as a botnet, and using them to display cash-generating advertising. Some of the compromised computers were at locations like the Weapons Division of the U.S. Naval Air Force, Air Warfare Center, and the U.S. Department of Defense, among many. There was many other federal and government agencies that computers were infected with this piece of malware. Too fast. All right, so those are just some of the emerging threats, and of course, because everything is client-side, I mean, we really have a whole new world of emerging threats than what it used to be, a network attack. Everything's web application-based, everything's client-side now. So we have this whole new term, cloud computing. I'm going to give you a brief introduction into what infrastructure as a service is, which is what Terramark and the company I work for does, infrastructure as a service. Now, Google applications or Google apps would be considered a platform as a service. Things like Salesforce.com are considered software as a service, right? So we'll talk about these. What should your provider be offering, and what are the future challenges, risks, and new issues that we have to deal with cloud computing? Some of the drivers for cloud computing are the fact that it provides a wide range of managed services or infrastructure services that are already there, meaning that you don't have to actually worry about taking care of firewalls and load balancers. They're part of the infrastructure when you're dealing with infrastructure as a service. Very fast to deploy, very fast to scale up, very fast to scale down, very fast to decommission and destroy servers on the cloud. Clients demand the latest technologies and capabilities, which could be a lot easier to implement on the cloud. Collective intelligence of professional services groups, vendors, MSSP services, so on, all of that is pretty much transparent to all of you. A cloud infrastructure service provider is taking care of all this behind the scenes. Obviously, they have to. Now, an integrated approach should have clients' time, effort, and costs. Compliance mandates and risk mitigation techniques should be mapped directly to the provider's capabilities, and risk and compliance management capabilities are also very advanced due to the rising tide effect of cloud computing. Now, this, and what I'm going to show you here, is not something that we share with many. This is really one of the first times that I'll show you a diagram of what Terramark's cloud looks like from a technical level, but there's two different things that we have in our cloud, built in and bolted on. Built in are things that are part of the cloud and the way that we've deployed it, and bolted on are things that are hardware outside of the cloud that has to be somehow connected to the cloud. So we have all kinds of things from, and I'll go straight to that. I don't know if I can. All right, so this is a high-level cloud diagram. It's not enough information for any of you hackers to take back and hack the cloud now.